Good morning everyone. Good day everyone. My name is Mike Miller Desga and I'm going to tackle about the importance of early estimates. So, early cost estimates offer insights to align your design aspirations with budget constraints from the beginning, preventing future disappointments. So, at this point, the capital costs for the project will be considered as part of the full financial appraisal of the project, and the decision whether or not to proceed within the project will be taken. The promoters of the project should not base the sanctioning decision on the first estimate, but this has to be balanced by the extra costs incurred as more detailed design is completed and more detailed estimates are undertaken. So the earliest estimates are primarily quantifications of risk. So, quantifications of risk provide early estimates because they help identify potential threats and vulnerabilities, allowing organizations to prioritize resources and develop mitigation strategies before problems escalate. So, it's like having a roadmap for navigating potential hazards. And the next is the first step towards assessing the risk is to identify potentially high risk projects. So, identifying potentially high-risk projects as the first step in risk assessment is crucial because it allows organizations to focus their resources and attention where they're most needed. By pinpointing projects with higher potential for adverse outcomes, organizations can allocate resources effectively, implement targeted risk management strategies, and mitigate potential negative impacts before they occur. It's about prioritizing efforts where they can make the most significant difference. So, testing new projects against such criteria is the first step towards improving the realism of initial estimates. If the project does prove to be high risk, then a further detailed risk analysis should be performed. So, a list of the main sources of risk should be prepared. This may be as few as 5 but should not exceed 15. So, in preparing a list of the main sources of risk is very important, ideally between 5 to 15. It is essential for effective risk management because it helps organizations identify and categorize potential threats comprehensively. By having a structured list, organizations can prioritize their risk management efforts, allocate resources efficiently, and develop targeted mitigation strategies for each type of risk. Additionally, a concise list ensures that key risks are not overlooked and allows for clear communication and understanding among stakeholders. So, the estimator's attention should focus on those risks that are high impact and high probability. So, focusing on risks with both high impact and high probability is essential because these are the ones most likely to have significant adverse effects on a project or organization. By prioritizing these risks, estimators can allocate resources and develop mitigation strategies where they will have the greatest impact, minimizing the likelihood of severe consequences. It's about addressing the most pressing concerns first to protect against potential disruptions and losses. So, in summary, early estimates provide a foundation for planning, risk management, resource allocation, expectation setting, and stakeholder communication, ultimately contributing to the success of projects and initiatives. That is how early estimates work, and it is very significant for a project. So, the next one is estimating techniques. So, estimating techniques are methods used to predict or approximate various aspects of a project or initiative, such as cost, duration, resources, and risk. So, here we are, we're going to tackle about the first technique in estimating, which is the global. So this term describes the broadest brush category of technique, which relies on libraries of achieved costs of similar projects related to the overall size or capacity of the asset provided. This technique relies entirely on historical data and therefore must be used in conjunction with inflation and a judgment of the trends in levels of prices. So the next technique is what we call the factorial. So these techniques are typically used for process plants and power stations where the core of the project consists of major items of plant, which can be specified relatively easily and have current prices obtained from suppliers. So this technique provides factors for a comprehensive list of peripheral costs such as pipe work, electric, instruments, structure, or foundations. The estimate for each peripheral will be the product of its factor and the estimate for the main plant items. So this technique does not require a detailed program, but nevertheless one should be prepared of identify problems of construction, leads time for equipment deliveries, and planning approval which will go undetected. The technique is applied in a purely arithmetical way. So, in factorial, the reliability of the budget prices for the main plant items, the estimator is still required to make a judgment on the value to include these estimates, depending on the state of the market and the firmness of the specification. The adoption of the technique as a whole so that the deficiency in some areas will compensate for excess in others. So the experience of the estimator in the use of the technique and his or her ability to make relevant judgments. So the next technique is what we call the man-hours estimation. So man-hours this is probably the original estimating technique. So it is a common aspect of estimating techniques, particularly in projects involving labor-intensive activities. Man-hour refer to the amount of work or effort required from an individual or a team to complete a task or project within a specified time frame. It is most suitable for labor-intensive construction and operations such as fabrication and erection of piping, mechanical equipment, electrical installations, and instrumentation work where there exist reliable records of productivity of different trades per man-hour. For example, process plant, construction and fabrication of offshore installations. So the next one is the unit rates. So this technique is based on the traditional bill of quantity approach to pricing construction work. In its most detailed form of a bill of quantities will be available containing the quantities of work to be constructed, measured in accordance with an appropriate method of measurement. The estimator select historical rates or prices for each item in the bill. Using information from recent similar contracts or published information, for example, price books for building or civil engineering, or built-up rates from his analysis of the operations, plant, and materials required for the measured item. As the technique relies on the historical data, it is subject to the general dangers outlined above. So, this technique is most appropriate to building in repetitive work where the allocation of costs to specific operation is reasonably well defined and operational risks are more manageable. Sophisticated methods of measurement for building have been developed in the UK, and internationally, many contractors are able to tender by pricing bills of quantities using rates based directly continuing experience. So the next and the last one is the operational costs. Fundamental estimating technique, as the total cost of the work is compiled from consideration of the constituent operations or activities revealed by the method, statement, and program, and from the accumulated demand for sources. So operational costs is labor, plant, and materials are costed at current rates, the advantage of working in current costs is obtained, and the most difficult data to obtain are the productivities of labor and construction plant in the geographical location of the project, and especially the circumstances of the specific activity under consideration. So, technique exposes the basic sources of cost. The sensitivities of the statement alternative assumption methods can be investigated easily and the reason for variations in cost appreciated. So, it also provides a detailed current cost time basis for the application of inflation, forecasts, and hence the compilation of project cash flow. In particular, the operational technique for estimating holds the best chance of identifying risk of delay as it involves the preparation of a method of construction and sequential program including an appreciation of productivities.